Episode 36 of Strange Brow Radio. I'm your host, Tobe Johnson. Thanks again for tuning in, sharing, and subscribing this channel. We look forward to building a new audience in the future, so if it's your first time listening to Strange Brow Radio, well, you're about to hear a flavor of what the show talks about. Little people, fairies, folk, elves. We have a witness, Sam Ritchie. We sit down with Sam Ritchie, and, well, Sam has an encounter. And let's talk about an amazing story. Sam Ritchie in a moment, but first, thank you to Feral by Aaron at Etsy.com, ERYN, Etsy.com. You know, in the past, I've said that these are museum-quality spirit tools, drums, rattles, and smudge fans, and now, literally, they are in a museum. You can go to the Cassera Gallery, that's C-A-S-S-E-R-A, in Stanwood, Washington. Look up the Cassera Gallery, and the work being done with Marcia K. Moore and Feral by Aaron. Check out these pieces, rate, review, like, all that goes a tremendous way. All right, next we have Sam Ritchie and the encounter with the little people. All right, as I said today, our guest is Sam Ritchie, witness to the little people. We sit down for an hour and a half and go over the details of all things mysterious that happen in a forest. Besides little people, of course we go down the rabbit hole, of course we do. And Sam has a incredible background working in the radio industry, a musician. You hear a sample of that in the beginning. And also in the pre-production work of streaming a live radio show for all to hear across the world through the town of Greenwater, Washington. As soon as I get those call letters here, I'll announce that. But even carrying this show. So sit back, enjoy our conversation with Witness to the Little People, Sam Ritchie. We're here today with Sam Ritchie, talented musician, as we make our prologue into the story of Sam's experience with the little people. There we go. All right, we're here with Sam Ritchie. That was some piano playing. I didn't know you were multi-talented.
Oh yeah, I do a lot of music.
Yeah. Well, Sam, you and I met originally through a conversation that we had and probably initiated with Barb Shoup. And then I requested some audiophile engineer help. I saw that you were capable of such things. And then Aaron mentioned to me actually about your encounters or your experiences with elves or little people or trolls or brownies or puckwudgies. That's what I want to talk to you about today.
Okay, sure.
So, tell me a little bit about how this all started for you as far as being an outdoorsman and looking for, you know, the unusual.
Well, I think
Or did it start out like that?
I think there's always that one thing that's the catalyst that seems to be the thing that stands out that people try to has to do with when you live in the city most of the time, and I'm a logical person because I'm a computer programmer by trade. And if you don't get out in the woods, you don't really see the strange stuff. You know,
Right.
things that are happening that can't defies logic. However, you're kind of indoctrinated by everyone in the world to think that everything's been pretty much explained. You know, that if something's unexplainable, then it probably doesn't exist. You know, and that goes for mythical creatures like Bigfoot, little people, or what have you. You know, aliens, UFOs. So, you know, they downplay it all the time. And then if you do express a belief in any of that, then there's always the ridicule factor, the peer pressure in society that, well, it's changing, but in the past it was always an issue. Especially in my case, I was had a very high profile position with the company, and so it definitely probably has some impact on where I'm at today, but it didn't hold me back from that. But a lot of people, they don't want to lose their position, or it could be a money matter or whatever. They'll just keep it to themselves. And there could be family issues, they don't want to lose family connections. So, but I was always the kind of person that if I saw something, I knew it wasn't just a fabrication in my mind. So when I finally started going out into the mountains, it's because I was drawn there, and was going out there like twice a week from Tacoma area out to this place called Greenwater, and it's halfway between Enumclaw and Crystal Mountain ski resort area. Something about the energy, something about just the trees. I always loved nature, and I just felt I just felt renewed every time I went out to a place like that. So I was doing it twice a week, driving all over Tacoma just to hang out for 2 or 3 hours, bring my laptop, do a little telecommuting since I was in that field anyway. And I finally got the opportunity in 2012, where I was able to procure an RV and park it at one of the rental spots near the local tavern. And that's when the fun began. So it didn't take long before I met Barb Shoot down at the general store, and I didn't have any reason to. And so I saw.
Just real quick to explain who Barb Shoop is. She's not only going to be one of the speakers, at the Manresa Castle coming up here in October, but she was pretty well known for her YouTube footage of the cloaking image. Some think it's a Sasquatch. We're not really totally 100% sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was known for her YouTube footage with that mainly, and then with her dog. Gabby. I want to say Goldie, but that's the new dog.
Goldie's the new dog.
Yeah.
Gabby passed away.
Okay, so that puts that in perspective. Barb kind of put everybody together, but you were talking about having a trailer there out near Greenwater.
And this is back when I met Barb. This is right at the time she just started doing YouTube, because she had her encounters, which I won't go into the full, but she had a major encounter. And, I saw the foot castings, and replicas of them, and so I asked her, what's this all about? So she, as far as I'm concerned, it's all, Bigfoot was maybe just a, urban legend or a myth or whatever. But I was pretty open-minded about different things. So it didn't take long after I met her that I was starting to hear things. I always think the Bigfoots are kind of like an intro into everything else. Mm-hmm. It's the first major thing that you think about, or you have some kind of experience with, whether it's hearing the screams, and I've heard those, the hollers. I mean, very loud. It could not possibly be an owl or anything, or a bird or an animal or anything like that. And pretty impressive sounds is that. And then, of course, when you finally, like in my case, actually saw one jump across from one tree to the next in the middle of the night after you put a flashlight up there, you start having numerous experiences where you actually see them. Mm-hmm. Your perspective changes in a hurry about reality, what it really means, Sure. So that's how it started.
So the window of all this started with the question of, does Bigfoot exist? Was that your initial question, is I'm going to see if this phenomena exists, or was there something else calling you out there?
A little of both. I was really, I wasn't pursuing the question, do they exist or not. I just felt that Barb had this experience, and we wanted to determine, we knew it existed, but what was it that existed? In other words, was it just a physical being or anything?
So not much what if they are, but what they are.
What they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had no question that there was something out there that existed. Right. We wanted to understand the nature of what they were. We wanted to get past the narrative that everybody has, like do they exist or not? Which
Right.
is such a lame narrative anymore. I'm just sick and tired of hearing that.
Yeah.
So I want to move past that. I want to learn about them, not if they're there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, everything kind of was like around that area for the first 2 years, from 2013, 2014. It probably had everything to do with Bigfoot at that time. But the experiences that went outside of it didn't take long, which was Barb Schutz's cloaking situation. I was there when that footage was taking place and when that happened. So I was firsthand experience. And of course, the very next day, I had the experience of going up the trail, same place. I figured I'd go by myself and see what was going on. They say that if you didn't bring any recording equipment with you, I was more interested in the experience. And so I went up there by myself, and I was expecting maybe to shake Bigfoot's hand or something like that. Okay, that didn't happen, but something just...
Doing good. Thank you.
Something more awesome happened, which had to do with the wind whipping up and some kind of strange energy whipped around me. And to the point I had no fear. It was all about this exuberance, excellence, euphoric feeling. And then walking and seeing what I thought was bright sunlight reflecting off of something. It turned out to be these rays of orange bars that were about 3 feet above the trail. They were formed a certain pattern, like a portal or some sort. Four of them, they look like Z's, like the letter Z. Yeah, like this.
Okay.
But there were four of them in a rectangular box pattern.
Okay.
And I got like within 15 feet of it, and I'm going like, because of the state of mind I'm in with no fear, it's like, hey, you don't see that every day. I'm looking at this thing. It says, maybe you watch this on Star Wars or something like that. I say, hey, like a lightsaber. And so I'm walking past it and then going like, I don't want to keep my eyes off of this thing. And it kept its perspective, so when you walk to the side, well, people on this podcast can't see that, but I'm shifting from side to side, and it actually is a static. It's statically where it's at, so you can actually walk around. It has a 3D structure to it. So I just turned my eyes away for 1 second and looked back, and lo and behold, and this is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 or something like that, a giant beach ball size orb looked like a big gigantic soap bubble of electricity just all around it, was floating towards the light structure. I just stood there and watched this thing slowly make its way to the one end of the orange light structure and docked itself in between the 4 Z's. And then the thing would blaze a little bit and then pulse, and then fade away. This whole experience lasted 60 seconds. That was a life-changing experience. Okay, so that took it out of the realm of Bigfoot right there.
What year is this? We're in 2019.
That was in 2014.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And in 2015, well, I know we're talking about little people, and just there's other beings involved. There's shapeshifters, and I kept that experience to myself, because I was talking about Bigfoot. I didn't want to talk about portals and light beams and big old giant orbs, Exactly a year later, in August, I decided, well, I need to tell that story. I have a YouTube channel on the planet Sasquatch. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and do a recording. I'm going to do a walkthrough of the trail, just like it did a year prior. And I'm going to turn around and describe and show the scenery, exactly what I saw, and describe as I went. When I did that, I went ahead and filmed up on the tree and everything and just went through the whole thing. Posted it on YouTube. It didn't take long before a user on YouTube said, well, what about that big creature that was staring at you as you were walking by telling the story? So I had to take a double take and go back and look at my YouTube video. And I'm looking at it, I'm seeing this thing appear, and it starts to look like one of those large-eyed ETs, the grays. Then it shifts its head and becomes something else. And oh my God, I'm thinking to myself, I could see this. And it's shaking because, people don't understand. They were upset because the camera was shaking too much and I had to stabilize a little bit on post-editing. But people had to understand, I didn't see it. It's not like I had the ability to put the camera around that object. It was after the fact that I saw it. And I was been able to stabilize that and put it, and it's very apparent. It shape shifts. Then it smiles. You can actually see the teeth, and then you can see it smiling and turn its head like that. Mm-hmm. All in the space of maybe about 10 seconds as I'm walking past the certain. So I had to slow it way down. And then 2 weeks after that, went back to the same area, and then I walked through the area. No, nobody was there. I turned around and took a picture. And when I brought it on my computer to see, there were two beings standing in what I call the field of dreams. That's the area that all this is taking place in. And it looks like a Bigfoot over on the left side, and then on the right, I just barely saw it because it meshed in, it cloaked in. When I say cloaking, it color meshed really well with the background. And I had to look. It took the shape of like the Hail Mary or like the Virgin,
Virgin Mary.
Virgin Mary.
Okay.
But it had that cloak look kind of feminine. So I zoomed in on it and says absolutely could see the face and everything, and was able to do some enhancements to the point where, oh my, this is nothing. This is a 6 foot tall being, but it's not Bigfoot. And it had every aspect of being an alien looking being. And what was so funny, when I took the picture and walked through there, it disappeared. So, I got a shapeshifter. I got something that looks like an alien being wearing a cloak. I have portals, so all in the same area within a year of each other. Then what happened?
You mean your first year after moving to Greenwater? Within 12 months, all this happened?
Oh, I would say not within the first 12 months, but probably after I was there for a year and started hearing the howls.
Okay.
This all happened pretty quickly.
Within the first 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you warned beforehand that this may happen to you? Did people say, and you maybe doubted them, that, hey,
nobody told me they had any of these experiences.
Okay.
I was having these experiences early on. It didn't happen to Barb or any of the other group as much as it was, except for the Cloaker event and some howls and some sightings every so often. But the really weird stuff was happening to me early on. Now it's different. Now Barb and the camp out group are experiencing lights in around their tents and strange portals opening up inside the tent. That's Barb's more recent experience.
Right.
And she may have talked to you about that.
Do you think it's because they're more open, or do you think it's because they're paying more attention?
We've been together for a long time, so I think what's happened is the air of familiarity with these beings,
right?
The whole collective consciousness of them, realize that we're advancing and becoming more open to tuning into them more, and so they're showing us more on an accelerated timeline.
Yeah.
So, and this is like 5 years later, and of course, the little people came into the picture because in 2015 in December, my first inkling of that was I went to our other camp. That's the same place you camped out over there when you went.
Oh yeah.
In outside Greenwater, a few miles outside of it. The place I call the Fortress, and so I took a picture. I caught a picture of a small being sitting there, and it looked like a Bigfoot, but something about scaling was the scale size was not quite right. I says, well, it looks adult, but it's so small. And then I was examining a secondary picture I took of this. I did a comparison picture. It was there in the one picture, and it wasn't in another, so it wasn't a stump. It's something that actually was there and moved. And it had the detail on the face and everything, long hair, and even had a baby on its side it was holding. So I have those pictures.
Okay, good.
But I looked over in the bushes, and I'm looking at some colors that are appearing in between the branches and everything, and I'm going, This is after I get on the computer. I get a nice quality monitor, and I'm zooming in on this picture using good high quality 24 megapixel resolution. And with the lights down, I'm looking in between these branches, and it's like people in there. I look a little bit closer, and it looks like a bunch of little hippies from the 70s. They had the hairstyles. I mean, there was a group of 4. There was about 6 or 7 of them. A lot of them looked very human-like. Maybe oversized heads a little bit. The hairstyles were definitely very apparent. Some of them actually looked like there was a mixture of other kinds of beings that looked like small grays and maybe some miniature-looking Bigfoots. I mean, it was there. Well, guess what? I kept that picture to myself for another year. I didn't want to talk about little people.
Can I get an ice water and just the ice water off you?
So
We're at a bar, so they're used to me being at a bar interviewing people.
Oh yeah. So I kept that to myself, and I figured that, well, I'll hang on to that picture. It says, usually what I do is, if I see another instance of this, then I know I'm not going nuts about this. Okay, so another year goes by, going into 2016, I go into the other area, Field of Dreams. I'm taking pictures. I'm looking at one of my pictures, and this one stood out the most. It was like I'm zooming in on this fern plant. I'm getting closer, and there's something shiny, like a metallic helmet. What the? The detail was good. So I was zooming in, and it says, there's a little guy wearing a helmet. It's almost like a little, it was 2 of them standing there. It was just unbelievable. I mean, what caught my attention was the shiny metallic helmet.
Gold. Gold colored.
Gold colored.
And not like a hard hat, but like a helmet.
No, like a very smooth, shiny.
Like a space helmet?
Sort of.
Okay.
And I've caught something like that before. So I'm going to bring up some things about that.
Okay.
But theories. So I said, my God. So I took that picture, and what was so funny about it, that was a picture caught on the 12th of October. No, I think it was August or something. 2016. Then the next picture I found was another one. Don't remember which one it was. I caught several of them like that. And then that one's like September 12th. I took that picture. Then I found another picture in October 12th. They're all around the same time. I'm thinking they're showing up at certain periods of time more often. And so I collected all those pictures together. So I had posted that about the little people, so I finally got around to it.
You mean you just hit someone up on Facebook and wrote an article?
Well, no, I posted it as a video on my Planet Sasquatch YouTube.
Oh,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Planet Sasquatch is your YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I even have the Planet Sasquatch Facebook group.
Okay.
And I've had that since 2015, so
Okay.
we got a pretty good following on there. So they've been following this as I go, and I don't hesitate to start publishing this. You get the few people say, I don't see it. Okay,
Right.
we get that all the time, even with Bigfoot. But what really became incredible was it last year? I think it was last winter. I forgot the year. It was around January, and went up, and it was right before snow in the Field of Dreams area. That's our research area. And so I take another picture there, and I'm taking it like into the woods, into this, what I call this ridge area, And so I go home and look on the computer, and so I'm zooming in on the ridge, and I see, oh my God, there's a young Bigfoot staring at me. I mean, it was unmistakable as a young Sasquatch. You could see his head, face, and everything. So I thought that was something.
Wait, and this was after the fact or during the picture that you saw this?
While I was looking.
Okay, so
Probably 90% of the time. There are instances now where I've been trained myself now, I can actually see them when I'm taking the pictures. I mean, I can see them before I take them. But this was post-processed after I got it on the computer and took a look at it. And so I'm looking at this young Sasquatch after I zoomed in on the picture, and enlarged it on the computer, and saying, studying this, the detail of the face and everything, and it's, I'm going like, man, this has got to be one of my best ones. And so I start moving the frame down. Now I'm standing in this little area. People can't see that, but I'm standing in this little clearing. There's a small log that's laying next to me, very small, only about 6 inches in diameter. And at the end, so I'm looking at this picture where I took the picture. I'm zooming down near this log, near my feet, like within 3 feet or less. And then I see this old gray-haired man, white-haired man, with his head laying. And I don't know if you've seen that picture yet. I need to share it because I've shared that before.
You see okay, back up. You see this, now say that again slower. You see a man laying down?
I see this white-haired, he has a very specific hairstyle, very detailed face.
Rip Van Winkle
kind of. Well, no, he was kind of. Imagine a very well-groomed Christopher Lloyd or Doc Brown from back.
Okay, gotcha.
Sort of something like that.
Marty.
Yeah. Okay. And so he's got his head down on the log like that because he's so close to me. And he says, "Oh my God, this is not an apparition. This is not a leaf just laying on a log. Nobody, you show it. This is something you could show to average people. Say that's a man laying. No, it isn't. It is, but he's only 6 inches tall." So I went on Coast to Coast with him and talked. That was great because I had got on there with Connie was hosting at the time, and they had posted. It is one of the videos posted on their YouTube channel talking about little people. And I told her and said this. I had some kind of connection where I was able to determine a name association with this little guy called Sal, S-A-L, and was able to kind of made a connection a little bit with these guys. It says, they're always here. And I'm finding it in the pictures. It says, is my awareness like changing now? It says, I've been taking pictures since 2013, so I says, I need to go back and look at my old pictures, take another look with this new understanding. I'm looking for something really big. I'm not paying attention in the bushes and little places like that. So I go across one picture from 2014. There's a wood brush pile still in the same area, this Field of Dreams area. And I'm looking down and it says, oh my God. I'm looking down and it's into the wood brush. There's this little person. He's a little bit hairy. He's got the kind of like a little bit Bigfooty looking, but he's got the very human face. He's got the widow's peak around the thing like that.
Wait, so you're drawing your hand around your cheek, kind of like you would with a wolf man or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So that comes up around the high cheekbones?
Yeah.
And it comes down, okay. How close were you when you saw something like that? How close were you able to get to all of this? Were you able to get right up on this?
Well, where I was taking the picture, I may have been about only 12 feet away.
That's
but
extremely close.
It's not because I saw him. It's just I had a really good resolution camera that was picking up everything in the background. And there's no attention to detail when you're trying to do it live, so you wait until you get it on the computer and it says who's hiding in the bushes or who's down there in the wood pile. It was so incredible because I got closer and closer, and then I noticed something else that was amazing. I noticed that this guy had like the impression of I'm doing this with my eyes and drawing a little black square around my eyes.
Okay.
Specs.
Oh.
Glasses. Well, what old people back in the day called them specs, or reading glasses, or the old square frame. This guy was wearing little square glasses. And I got a picture of him. I call him Little Bob.
So somewhere there has to be like a little people elf binions or
Well, I come to the conclusion after, and I've had multiple other pictures since then in the creek area and the couples being seen together. I've noticed them wearing helmets. They're wearing different kinds of. I even came across one that was wearing a stylish, like flamboyant hat. In the same one. I've actually seen the same one in multiple pictures. So that's happened.
Now you've seen these things also though with your naked eye. You don't always need a camera.
Now
to
it
pick
does.
up.
I went up the trail, and I looked up on the hill, and well, what it is it has to do with the light spectrum. We can't see in the ultraviolet range. These guys are moving their color scheme up to a point. That's why they look so dark in the shadows, because the ultraviolet light's coming to our eyes, but our eyes aren't responding to that kind of light. So in the absence of response, it's just pure darkness, black. Okay, we don't see any detail. It's just a silhouette. So I'm looking up. I'm seeing this little humanoid silhouette standing there, but I can tell. So I'm talking to this little guy and say, "I see you there. I know you're there, because I've gained enough experience with these people that." So I just try to have discussions when I go in the woods. I've been doing that for a long time. I just talk to them. They understand English. So I must have talked for about 5 minutes to this little guy, and I'm like, you know what? And I go, it's a little frustrating for a one-sided conversation. I'm doing all this talking, and you're just standing there. And says, I wish you guys would respond or say something. And the second I said that, right behind me on the trail, I heard what sounded like, those big truck mats that are on those flaps that are on the side of back of the wheels, the big old rubber things. I felt like someone took one of those, and I'm raising my hands up, holding it, and slamming it on the ground as hard as you can.
Oh, wow.
The sound was like flap, extremely loud, right behind me, 10 feet behind me.
Yeah.
I'm looking around, and I look over very carefully, and nothing is there. No one's around.
Okay, that's very common. I mean, for people that don't know, that scenario, call it a car door slam, call it a door shut slam, or a slap or a hit. What do you think that is? What's your guess? What theories do you have? You have theories.
Oh, the theories.
Yeah, well, what's that theory? What's your theory on the popping or slapping sounds?
I always feel at this point that the little people are in, I don't want to say cahoots. The little people they work with the Bigfoots, they work with the Sasquatch. And since they have a tendency to be invisible and not be seen when they're, that when I asked for confirmation, maybe he didn't do it, maybe a Bigfoot was observing, decided to slam down his body or cause some kind of sound to do that.
Just to spook you?
No, well, just to make a point.
If they're in charge?
No, that I wanted confirmation that they respond back.
I got you. Okay.
And so they wanted to make sure it wasn't just like some little tweeting bird up there or some little owl or something.
Okay.
No, we're going to make it very apparent to you that it wasn't just an owl or a bird, so you have no doubt in your mind.
Right.
This was something you never hear and this loud in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a thing. But lately, I don't. How's our timing on this?
Oh, we're good.
Don't worry about timing now. Okay. Because there's so much. I could probably go on for hours.
Well, I want to know. Okay, so you've had a chance to see these with your own two eyes on at least 2 or 3 occasions.
Yes, at least.
At least. And they range in. They almost sound like they're. The way you're describing is almost like a little bit of a hybrid thing. If they have a little bit of Sasquatch quality to some of them.
That's what's so funny is some of them look like I could see them in the pictures. I'm able to discern the patterns past. In other words, I've cloak-proofed my eyes, so I can actually see through some of the cloaking.
Oh, we haven't had this discussion. We got to know more about this thing.
Yeah, it has to do with their color blending and my ability to I've sensitized my eyes to the point where I'm able to see the very slightest color blending or the slight discrepancies between certain colors. Like you say, you can show two panels of green and say, it's the same color. No, it's not. Your sensitivity is raised so much. There's just a micro shade difference between here and here.
Right.
And when you're able to do that, you can actually.
And you trained yourself to have this difference?
Yeah, because I studied pictures for a long time. By studying pictures, I was able to train my mind to start recognizing things.
So you're feeling out pareidolia, and you're looking for the real McCoy. Okay,
I'm noticing the differences between those, but then I'm able to see the exact pattern. I mean, if you study photos and you even study people that claim so it's pareidolia, you start becoming anything you spend an incredible amount of time doing, you become pretty good at discerning what's real and what isn't.
Right. It's like when a disc jockey can hear the most minute hiss or conversation in his headphones and no one can hear.
Yeah,
their ears are trained to hear things.
And it's the same way, like I'm a musician, as I probably demonstrated earlier. I do play multiple instruments, flutes, pianos, guitar. I mean, it just runs, and I've done music, I've written music, recorded music, it's been played on the radio station in times past. But by doing that, I develop an ear for music, so I can hear the slightest sound differences. But you can do the same thing with your eyes when it comes to light differences between colors. And that's why the average person, when they look at a picture, they gloss over things. They get confused in all the what I call the visual noise that exists on a picture. Right. By eliminating the visual noise, people can more clearly. Sometimes that's why in enhanced pictures I try to lower the visual noise so you can see the image come through. And I have an enhancement technique that I'm able to do that as well.
So visual noise in this case would be foliage, like trees, the river, the rocks, all of the camouflage.
That's why it makes such a good distraction, because people's attention doesn't focus. They're not trained to look for specific things. We're trained to gloss over everything. We're not trained for attention to detail in the first place. And so there's a little unlearning that has to take place in reteaching yourself vision.
Now, with your music, have you found that elicits activity?
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a connection. When I play the flute, I develop a protocol for the little people. I play a call with 2 notes that I repeat 3 times, then I wait about 15 seconds, and I'll repeat the same pattern. And they know that that's the call for them to come out and listen, and then I'll start playing a set of music that I've developed for them. I talked to them, I said, in exchange for me playing these music for them, that I just want them to come out and try to have some interaction visually, and that I'm going to take pictures in the background, and that if you appear in it, it'd be great, but I've been able to have more success by doing that. Because the reason I have so many pictures, and honestly I had somebody call that was part of an Indian tribe up in BC, British Columbia, call. His wife found some of my pictures of the little people, and she was just shocked. She says, their Indian tribe, it says the only time they don't have any pictures, and they have never seen pictures of them, but they have carvings of them they made, and they know what they look like. Well, I got a call from this person. You probably know who this person is. I don't say who it is or anything, but he says, I just cannot believe it. Where'd you get these pictures? How did you take these pictures? I said, they just let me. I just take pictures. I've been doing it for a while. He says, never seen these. Exactly what they look like. He's so emphatic. Says, I can't believe you got these pictures. He says, nobody gets pictures like this. And I says, well, I said, I think it has to do with I have a level of trust with these beings that they allow me to take. I have the camera with me all the time. They allow me to take pictures of the background. They probably realize that I'm finding them in the pictures. I even tell them that I see them sometimes in the pictures. So the trust factor is obviously one of the key things when you go out there. My intent is for the greater good.
Where are you having your most luck? Like what? You were out in Greenwater area. Are you still finding that that's where you're pulled to?
The Field of Dreams area, research area. the one that Barb originally saw the cloaker.
Okay. And just so people know, I have no idea where that is, and
Nobody needs to know
Yeah.
exactly where that is.
Right.
It's our little private research area.
Okay.
It's a common area where people go right through it all the time.
Oh, interesting.
But it's got a major trail through it. But no one would know because they'll never have the interaction that says you got to be a certain type of person for them to respond to.
Okay.
So it isn't necessarily just a geographic location.
I'm gonna take after our interview. I'm gonna take a guess.
Okay, all right. But
I don't know that area well at all, though. That's the way this goes. Is that you get used to it.
I want to conjecture a little bit about something else I've seen. When I went out there, I brought a couple of psychics to try to feel the area, and they were messing with this camera, something fierce, because it was fully charged. And all of a sudden it went dead, then it went half dead, and then it was, so it was going back and forth like
wow.
this. And I was just laughing. I was like, I don't understand that this happens. They said they messed. So I found the picture and I looked up the trees and I found two beings they're probably the ones doing it. But I noticed that some of the little people, I've been finding more and more of them. They look like they're wearing helmets, but the thing I'm finding they're wearing is like these little mouthpieces, little square white mouthpieces that are near their mouth, just like you ever seen like headset.
Garth Brooks wears when he.
Yeah, like a headset, some kind of communication.
Yeah, like the Backstreet Boys.
And I'm thinking, and I've seen instances. I had pictures of what looked like helmets on their head and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let's talk about little people. Let's open the door a little bit wider. If you start thinking about aliens, we always think about aliens, the spaceships, and all that come down. We're always thinking in terms of aliens as tall as us, maybe taller. And spaceships are gigantic. Has anybody ever considered the idea that there's a colony of ETs that are only 6 inches tall or 3 inches tall? The little people? Could they be a colony of ETs that settled here a long time ago and have all this technology, which probably explains why they're able to cloak themselves or do all these strange things like mess with someone's camera to cause it to be charged and all? I mean, we're already developing technology as humans that are kind of showing a lot of things that we saw as science fiction.
Right.
Starting to read. Like we're starting to talk about teleportation now. They're starting to talk about that. Moving things from one side to another. So there's nothing out of the realm of possibility anymore because of science. So that being the case, what happens if they never lost their technology? What happens if they've always had it and obviously a 6-inch tall beings can't integrate with human society, nor would they want to. They would have to stay hidden in remote areas like the Cascade Mountains and other places where they could live their lives kind of unhindered from, and they just keep themselves hidden. That part of their technology is being able to survive and stay stealth, unless they want to find certain individuals they want to talk to.
Okay.
Or interact, not talk to, but interact with.
Right.
So I'm feeling that, maybe they are ETs, maybe they're recent ETs, or they could be ETs or a race of people that might have been here for eons, but never lost their ability to develop technology. So like the little guy wearing glasses, you have to just ask yourself, you start out thinking just because they're not human doesn't mean they're primitive little things running around the woods that don't have any concept like animals. That's just, it could be highly evolved beings.
With bad vision.
Huh? That may be suffering from the same things we do as humans.
Right. Too much elf jeopardy.
Something I don't know. You don't know. I mean, if I could walk a day in a little people's shoes,
It would take you a long time to get anywhere.
I've heard stories of people going through portals and ending up walking into a little person's thing, having something to eat, and leaving.
Yeah.
They come back and it's 15 years later. I mean, the time distortion. I think you get this time-space distortion. You go through these portals, you end up in their realm, and you come back, and all of a sudden it's 50 years later. Everybody you ever known is either gone or old, or I mean,
Well,
it's
that
just
zigzag pattern that you saw.
maybe the
shimmery-
Rip Van Winkle story has some element
Right.
of truth to it. You know,
Well, don't you think a lot of these stories do?
I believe there's shades of truth
Yeah.
that people mask in myths.
Yeah.
All of them have truth to them.
Right.
You know.
So when you saw the zigzag pattern, though, did you approach it, and how close did you get? Did you?
I got within. I walked right next to it, where it was maybe as close as 10 feet away. I know the exact spot it was sitting. After I said I don't see that every day, I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't understand it. I don't understand what it is. The first thought I get, I don't want to get any closer. I don't want to take a one-way trip somewhere.
You didn't. You weren't tempted.
I thought about it, but
Yeah.
I'm cautious. I'm like, I was happy just observing. I didn't want to like go the distance and walk up and put my hand in there. That might have killed me. You know, I was also thinking maybe that's something I shouldn't have done. Maybe something put my thought in me. Stay at bay where you're at. You can watch, but don't get any closer.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that came across to me.
Did you attempt to take a photo, or were you in that frame of mind?
Remember, it was the time I went up there and I
Okay.
promised myself not to take any.
So you
visual.
didn't even sneak one up, and there was nothing. It
No,
was an
because
honest
then
to goodness
I thought if I brought some up, I would not have the experience.
I got you.
So the experience,
Well, has that theory worked out for you? Have you found that that's true, that technology limits your experience?
sometimes, only from the standpoint that they allow pictures, for instance, they allow me to do it. You know, I don't try to sneak. I carry it with me. I don't hide it. I don't sneak spy USB things in log or something like that. I mean, it's been tried, but you don't want. You need to understand that they know your intention on everything that you're doing. If they're very open-minded about things, you have a tape recorder with you or a camera, you tell them, I have this, I hope you don't mind, you know, be very straightforward with it. It's a sign of disrespect for you to try to, you know, pull the wool over their eyes.
Well, okay, so who do you think has a shorter temper, if there is a shorter temper for either one? The little people? But they kind of have a reputation of being a little bit feisty and nasty. Is that the case?
I don't know if it's that as much as some of them been noted as being tricksters a little bit, or like I've had nothing but good feeling coming from them.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Bigfoot sometimes I've had more like, you know, I'd play games with one where I was hiding from him and could see the eyes and hide behind a tree at night, and he wondered where I'm at, and I went, ooh, jumped out in front and looked down at him. And I took off, finally past him, and then he shows up 2 weeks later at my cabin, and as I'm locking the door and it's dark behind there and right in the woods, I hear a whoo! Like really amplified, just scared the living daylights out of me. And I said, who's there? Woo! Not like a bird. I mean, this is really amplified sound. And I'm going like, I'm acting like I don't know what it is. I know exactly what it is. And then I went, whoo! and he went, whoo! And then we walked off.
Have you named any of these individuals? Have they given you names? You have no names. Do they have names?
I wish I had. Well, actually, some of them have revealed their names. Like one in particular, Barb, I think. I don't know if she's brought that up. Yeah.
No, she brought that up.
I had a Russian girl that was staying in the cabin nearby that actually had a young one. She come up, some. She was in a Russian accent. She had Ukrainian, I think she was. Something. I didn't know there were little monkeys in the woods.
Oh, wow.
So she doesn't even finish. So she says, "There's a little monkey to run out." And my thing is just standing there and zip like nobody's business into the woods. And then she told me that a little later, he kept coming around the cabin. Obviously, this little guy liked her, you know, and he something about the girl, the Ukrainian woman, had the ability telepathy or had the ability to. And so she says the name of the being was Kobach. The young one's name was Kobach. But explained gave thought to her that the parents, he would not have, the Sasquatch parents would not like the idea of him hanging around with her. So, and of course she left the area and everything, but she did tell me about that experience. And he'd come around every night, just banging on, just messing around, just banging on the cabin, and just messing around, just playing with,
Where do you think the little people go when it's all said and done and they had their experience up here? Are they just between the veils still here and we can't see them?
Partially, but I also think they're ground dwellers.
Okay.
Like these large stumps.
Why
and
do you
everything.
think that?
Because it's convenient to a lot of the stumps have these root systems that once they rot out, they form great tunnels in there.
Yeah.
In large caverns inside of there. So, you could look all you want inside there, but you would never see them. You would maybe in their own fifth dimensional sense or some of their interdimensional, they appear. Even their village might even appear. I even had one instance. I'm just going to relate to one thing. I've been studying this phenomenon of bending light over bent, shiny objects and being able to see things that you never would see before. And I noticed this one log after a rain, like an old raw log that's had the bark off, but it's slimy, shiny on it. Took a picture of it, and I closed in on it, and it actually had this. When I enhanced the picture, it was actually a picture of a village. You could actually.
I didn't catch that.
We have
didn't catch that? Okay.
Siri's got a mind of her own. Wait, no. Shut up, Siri. Here, wait. Go back here. You're saying...
I think I caught ability to be able to see into an interdimensional window by looking through this bent light off this tree and actually have the rooftops and doorways and everything seen through this.
Is that because you trained your eyes?
No, I don't know. Not that one. That one
Okay.
actually showed up. It's just, it just couldn't be anomalous. It was actually.
It happened.
It had the peaked roofs and it would look like a village. So it was like, sometimes I think they're the interdimensional villages or interdimensional beings and all that. They can be seen if you're able to bend the light in our reality a little bit. They can't, and especially in a place where the veil is thin, then I don't think it takes much bending. When something's very thin and it's bent, then you can see right through it.
Now, the people that can see these things, would be viewed as special or unique, that have these ability to see little people, Sasquatch, these things from mythical realms. First of all, do you think that some people are chosen to do that, and are you one of those people?
I don't want to. I hate the term special. Because they even joked about it. The alien says you're special. It's like when you're abducted or something like that.
Right, you get on the short.
I think they're what they're doing. They're yanking your ego chain a little bit there. So I don't think it's so much special. I think that some of us have came here before birth and actually had a reason for being here, and this is just part of our contact link. We were meant to be out there in our lifetime to actually interact with these beings. Some of us that was part of our life plan from before birth.
Right.
And that's a whole different story. You may have to get me about that.
Well, does that get into reincarnation a little bit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That and things that have to do with soul incarnation from other places other than the Earth.
Okay.
Other places like the Pleiades or the Andromedas.
Well, let me ask you this then: do the little people seem familiar to you? Like you might have some connection to them?
I think there is some. Yes.
Okay.
I think because the actual beings that are full-blown aliens, like from these places, they are familiar with them. They are familiar with them directly. And I'm not going to say that I'm an alien at all. Okay, I'm a human being. I was born as a human. However, the soul itself is everything that has soul, we're just inhabiting these bodies. But my soul origin, that I will not say necessarily is something that is homegrown on this planet. Okay.
Fair.
And a lot of things have made itself apparent because a lot of things I was able to remember, and a lot of technology I was able to absorb on my own. I taught myself a lot of things. I was able to be a very successful computer programmer for years, and got into electronics and technology, and it all just seemed like child's play to me.
Right.
Music seemed like child's play. I mean, it's not because of anything special. I think from a reincarnation standpoint, these are abilities you developed in the past anyway.
Right.
You just all of a sudden didn't become a prodigy and think you're doing all this stuff. So I think it's just you're remembering the things that you did before, and it's easier because you're just getting a refresher course
Right.
on technology or music or anything else that you're doing. And then you're integrating that in why you came here in the first place. Well, I need to use these abilities for the greater good of mankind. I'm not going to selfishly squander them away on myself. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's how I view my own life. My whole life right now is about service to others. There's two kinds of people: service to others, service to self. And there's too much of the service to self that goes with the human race. So people need to be more mindful of that. We exist as a collective group, not as just independent individuals that can go their way and not care about the next person. You know.
Did any of your worldview shift for the better, like you're explaining now, because of your experiences? Has this made you
I think
a complete person?
There's been the telepathic communication. There's been the communication ever since these experiences started, whether through dream state or through download of knowledge, and the interaction I have with interdimensional beings like Sasquatch or little people. They're shaping my thinking. They are.
Are they talking to you now? Are you getting messages at all?
I get the strong vibes where if I'm asked a question, I can almost come back with an answer, like coming from them or the guides.
And you can tell who's doing it?
Not specifically,
Okay.
no. It's almost like I'm the mouthpiece of being able to, not channeling. I don't want to call it channeling. It's not channeling. I have.
You have a problem with that word?
A little. Well, it's just that these people that go in a trance
As
are
Sam's
channeling.
eyes roll back in his head.
When the message needs to be said,
Yeah.
they step up to it and actually give me the words to. In other words, the thoughts just start to flow, and then I start telling whatever I need to say. You know, if someone asks a pertinent question, then if they want me to respond enough, I'll do it. You know.
But you don't just walk up to people and say, "The little people want me to tell you."
No, because that's not the point. Because it's free will, and we're not meant to walk up to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and say,
right.
You know, hey, like these people, the preacher, the end is near. It's you need to repent. You know, no, it's just no. It's we were meant to interact with certain people. The universe brings people together. The universe picks and chooses certain individuals to get in contact, and then certain things need to be said to, like people that are just waking up. Then when you get together with them and you're an awakened person, the guides will just automatically just work through you and say what that person needs at that time to kind of make them think about it and wake up, you know, for their awakening. So.
Okay. Let me ask you this. As far as the dark side of the veil,
Yeah.
have you experienced anything dark?
There was a lot of darkness in my life before my experiences, and especially before like 2008 and all that. I had some life-changing experiences then. There's been a slow change in my own personality from someone who was always angry, always had a little bit of a mean streak. Was a kind person, but it wouldn't take much to get me like riled up or angry and start yelling and screaming. You know what I mean? But I was not a very happy camper in my life at that time. Um, uh,
But you haven't had any darkness from
No.
things attached to you, maybe going into the wrong part of the woods and having something follow you home?
No.
Like a hitchhiker,
Well,
some people would call
I
it.
don't go out in the woods by myself, unless I'm really close. I'm not worried about entities or anything because I don't carry the fear that, it's the fear that causes you to be a target. If you harbor the fear, they'll use it, and a fear is allowing an entity permission to come in and mess with you. If you don't harbor fear, they have no power. They have no power over you.
Wait, okay, that's interesting. You said fear is a permission slip for them to enter you.
Yes.
I've never heard of.
And you know
phrase
what?
that way.
They want as many humans to have that permission slip as possible. So that's why they work with the music. That's why they influence people in the movie industry, the horror movies, and it's all about increasing the fear. Even I hate to say it, even some radio shows or some talk shows.
Right.
Let's add the element of fear. Even some of these Bigfoot shows, let's add the element of fear.
Right.
Like the monsters out there and all that. It says you're not helping the cause. If you pay attention to that stuff all the time, it'll grind on you. You start harboring the fear, and then you're giving permission for the dark ones to start messing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow. I've never heard a phrase like that. A permission slip. It's a good way to look at it. So, what's the one thing that you haven't seen? Because you've seen a lot that you want to see. I mean, we've only skimmed the surface probably of what you've seen, but I know that it goes beyond what are you waiting to see?
I'm told to be patient. In other words, I'm doing what I need to do right now. I'm talking. I'm doing a talk show. So.
Oh yeah, well let's come back to that. But
yeah,
I want to ask you first what you haven't seen that you want to see as far as like something impossible.
Well, that's tough because I've seen about everything I can.
Have you seen a water creature? Have you seen?
No. I've seen it. I've actually seen like in waterfalls. I actually can see creatures sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I can see them in pictures. And I can see them moving. I can see them like whole families.
Like a spirit within the waves?
Yeah, the spirits sometimes.
Like a water spirit.
Spirits can sometimes, the way they manifest, sometimes they use the material around them to kind of distort the material.
Right.
And that's why you see beings in front of trees and things like that, or behind. They're usually in front of a rock or something because they're able to manipulate the color behind them and distort the pattern so it looks like something is visible. They make themselves visible that way.
And there's such confirmation not only with what you've seen, but what Barb described. And then you have that added bonus of Dr. Bruce Maccabee's wife, who went on the record in that Missing 411, the Hunter's edition, the newest Polites one, where this well-known doctor's wife was in a hunting stand, and she saw a cloaked figure right in front of her hunting tree that she was. And then there was a giant UFO sighting right down the way. It still blows me away, that encounter. But there's so many people that have described the kind of things that you've described that it's still very difficult to have them speak about it publicly for obvious reasons. What do you tell people that are afraid to talk about this? Have another beer?
I'm thinking about your question because it's how you handle the first few things in the first place. And I've actually it's the individual. I saw someone. I was told to go to a camp. I had a friend at the camp who had these strange abilities to manipulate UFOs in the sky and manipulate them, and was pointing up at the sky and says, "Watch this." I have his finger pointing up the sky and move it across. So he'd say, "Take a look at that little star up there." He'd move his finger across like this, like wave it, and the light would move. And then he did a U pattern, and the light would move with it up in the sky. And then I saw this with my own eyes. that was about as life-changing as seeing the light beams in the Field of Dreams. I said, man, I would have given you $200 to see that again. I could not believe it. So my first thought to him, I said, who are you? Who is your mom? Well, I was given away. I was in an orphanage, but my mom gave me away when I was young. I says, why? So she didn't like the way I was moving pencils from across the table.
Okay.
And he was the basis of the story I wrote. That gave the emphasis to me finishing the first book I wrote, Sasquatch Journey Through the Veil. So that was a kind of a catalyst for me to actually start writing, because it's such an interesting story and what I saw and experienced. And then about the light beams that hit him because they caught on to what he was doing, and they retaliated, and like steam coming off his body and his eyes turning red. I mean, this is the girlfriend frantically revealing this stuff to me, and I was there too when part of this happened. So, nothing surprises me. But yet, there was a couple that was camping was witnessing this. Their reaction to this was fear, and they left. They couldn't deal with it. So, I would say, if you want to experience these things, you probably can if you go out in the woods. But if you're going to take an attitude that you're going to be fearful about everything, then maybe you need to just stay in the city or something. You got to change your attitude, because as long as you harbor fear in your life, fear about anything, then you're always going to have trouble. Always going to have trouble. The minute you get rid of fear of a lot of things, fear of government, fear of, I could go down the road of a lot of different things, fear of retaliation by whatever. You're an independent person. You're a unique person in this universe, and you demand the respect of other beings, and according,
right.
Likewise. So as long as you understand that everything is precious, the smallest being, the ant, the animal, the lion, they're not monsters. They're just different beings.
Let me ask you, you said the government, as far as fear, have you ever had any reason to be fearful of the government being involved with what you're talking about? Have you ever paid the price in any way?
No, I think they don't like people. At some point, they target the ones that are making the biggest mouthpiece, but that are more well known. That they don't want certain information out to the public. They don't want people to know that a lot of the stuff that I've discovered exists, because it'll make them question what they've been taught, and it changes the narrative for their control.
It's harder to manage.
It's harder to manage people when they figure. Well, they don't want people to know that they've been lied to all their lives, because that'll cause more of a state of rebellion. And government.
You've never been
control.
specifically targeted in any way.
Not that I'm aware of.
Anyone you know?
Not late. No.
Not lately.
Not because of this. No.
Okay.
I try to not aggravate a situation either. I'm not the kind of person that'll shove this information down your throat.
Right.
either.
Right. Yeah. No, you're not.
I try to be matter of fact, I figure if I'm on YouTube or a talk show or something talking about this is all I'm doing is relating experiences. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe them or not. But I'm giving you the opportunity to make that decision, and encourage you to go out there and get the experiences for yourself.
In closing here, let people know how they can get a hold of you to know more about what you're up to and what you have coming in the future. You mentioned a podcast, another book, and music. Are you going to do?
Well, maybe those. There's only one lifetime to try to do multiple projects, so things have to take a back seat sometimes. But most people get on. If you're on Facebook, you can just simply search for Planet Sasquatch, 2 words, Planet Sasquatch, and look for the first Facebook group that shows up. And click join if you're interested in looking at my ongoing research. We also have the YouTube channel called Planet Sasquatch, same thing, you can search for that and subscribe with the alarm bell to that, for any. I haven't posted as many videos there as much as I do pictures on Facebook. I also have planetsasquatch.com. You might find some interesting stuff there because I have links to some previous shows that I've been on and talked about this information. And also I have slides of some of these images we were talking about during this podcast.
Again, that was Sam Ritchie from Greenwater, Washington, relating some incredible encounter stories. And I think we'll have Sam on the guest roster of people showing up in October. Maybe that'll be the next time we meet at the Manresa Castle. That would be the Podcastle Live Strange Brow live podcast, the first one in Port Townsend, Washington. Your chance to go and meet some people in a haunted castle and sit back and have some great food and history about the Port Townsend shady past, I guess we'll call it. Ron Moorhead will be there, psychic medium and consultant for the LAPD, Sarah Nash, as well as Barb Shoup with the infamous cloaking video to be discussed. And now, possibly, we're trying to still work on this one, Marcia K. Moore, who also has worked on some art, I guess you would call it, some forensic art at that for Ancient Aliens. And then we're going to have a theremin player there to do our intermission. And it's going to be a big party. I think a lot of people are going to end up staying the night. So check out the Castle NPT. That's INPT.com, the Castle NPT, or type in Manresa Castle. The 25th of October is a free event. The Halloween party on the 26th, which I believe is also a costume party, is like a $10 door fee. And there's still room available, so you can type that in. Go to Manresa Castle, Manresa Castle. All right, that's the show for us. I will be uploading more archive videos to YouTube and making some more announcements here shortly. Thanks again for listening, and as always, I will see you in the trees.